life is but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Macbeth is said to be performed first in 1606 and written under the reign of James I of England and Scotland. Shakespeare's shortest and bloodiest tragedy, Macbeth, tells the story of a brave Scottish general who receives a prophecy from three sinister witches that one day he will become King of Scotland. Consumed with ambitious thoughts and encouraged by his wife, Macbeth murders King Duncan and seizes the throne for himself. He begins his reign in fear and guilt and is forced to commit more and more murders to protect himself and his throne. The story is fueled with ambition, madness, and death. Shakespeare paid homage to his king's Scottish lineage with the play. Additionally, the witches' prophecy that Banquo will find a line of kings is a clear nod to James's family's claim to have descended from the historical Banquo. In 1604, right after James ascended to the English throne, a new Witchcraft Act was passed, and in 1597 the king had himself published a book called Demonology. Considering the king's well-known interest in witches, Shakespeare likely introduced witches in the play as a flattery to the king himself. It is also often said that Macbeth is a comment on the gunpowder plot, with several references to the incidents in the play. The gunpowder plot was a failed attempt to blow up England's King James I and the Parliament on November 5, 1605. The plot was organized by Robert Catesby to end the persecution of Roman Catholics by the English government. A conspiracy to kill the king and throw over the government is a hefty chunk of the summary of Macbeth. Even though the story is heavily influenced by the environment it was born into, the message of corrupt ambition does not falter over the years. It is a story of the evil spawned from greed and the triumph over that evil. Adaptations of the play on the screen started in 1906 and have been making numerous entrances over the years since then. In India, I could find 3 adaptations of Macbeth. Maqbool came in 2004, Veeram in 2016, and Joji in 2021. What's noteworthy is that all 3 films are set in different periods and takes very varied approaches to the story, yet the backbone stays the same. I would say the closest to the original is Veeram, where the events take place in a time when royalty reigned over. Along with Macbeth, the story also takes inspiration from Vaddakan Pattukal, which is a collection of Malayalam ballads of medieval origin. The songs present sagas of heroes such as Arumal Chekavar and heroines like Uniyarcha, both of which are important characters in the movie. Maqbool by Vishal Bhardwaj sets the story in the seedy gangster world where Duncan is an underworld don, a budgie, and Macbeth or Maqbool is his right-hand man. With a team of henchmen at his disposal, women and men eager to please him, and an unspoken terror in the eyes of the ones around him, the Don is nothing less than a king. Joji would be considered a loose adaptation of the play. Set in COVID times, the story revolves around a single household. The king is at 74 Kuttapan, a well-built man who manages a tight reign over the household. Joji, our Macbeth in this case, is his youngest son. He is struggling to breathe under his father's watchful eye. Shot in late 2020 and reflective of the state of the world, the pandemic demanded a much smaller and intimate backdrop for the story. All 3 stories deal with the supernatural in their own way. Veeram uses the trope as it is with witches making prophecies and ghosts at the dinner table. Maqbool takes a subtler approach. Its witches are 2 policemen, one of which indulges in astrology. They both make vague references to the future while also playing an active role in forming it. Maqbool is haunted by the sights of blood and his dead best friend, while Nimi is unable to escape from the blood-splattered room of that night. Joji has nightmares of his dead father, but more than that, his ghosts are missteps he has taken. As the story progresses, the trail of evidence he has left behind starts catching up to him, just like the ghost did for Macbeth. His witches are the internet, answering his every query and informing him of his consequences catching up to him. True to the source material, Veeram and Maqbool define their characters as a warrior. In Veeram, keeping up with its era, Chandu is physically muscular and skillful in the art of sword fighting. He is famous for his righteousness and victories in duels, and even though his marriage proposal for Uniyarcha was rejected by the takeover, his tales of loyalty result in him being the lieutenant. Yet, he is easily manipulated and seduced on several occasions. He is quick to wander into the idea of him being the takeover once he hears the prophecy by the witch. And even when he is hesitant to move forward with the murder plot, he is motivated by Kuttimani by questioning his valor. When he goes back to the witch, he believes her words and revels in his immortality. Maqbool, who by profession is one of the Don's henchmen, is not very muscular or combat skilled, but he has smarts and guts. The Don himself is an old man. Still, he rules based on fear and a trigger-happy finger. This is a world where brawls can only take you so far. The rulers are conniving and cruel. When he hears the prophecy for the first time, he does not give it much attention. Rather, his motivations take a solid form when the Don's mistress, Nimi, persuades him. But the throne is not the only reason for his slaughtering. Nimi and Maqbool are in love with each other, but they cannot be together. Nimi, partly wanting to be with Maqbool and partly wanting to continue to stay in power, convinces Maqbool to kill Abaji. Maqbool is not very ambitious at first. His greed becomes much more elevated after coming to power. In Joji, the title character is displayed as a slacker. He dropped out of college and has been working odd jobs. The pandemic has left him with no source of income and a horse tied at the back of the house. He is not respected by anyone in his family and is constantly physically bullied by his father. He is skinny, a contrast to his father and elder brothers, lacks motivation, and is still struggling to stand his ground. His courage does build up later on, but he does not become more ambitious or manipulative. Rather, he is more confident in taking his actions, however abrupt or foolish they might seem. Chandu, who is valued and admired for his actions before the story, when tries to marry Chikavar's sister, is refused that honor. For Maqbool, he is valued by Abbaji but still not treated as an equal, and Joji, who is close to his nephew and sister-in-law, is constantly bullied and undermined by his father and elder brothers. In all three cases, the characters are admired or tolerated by their peers but are also held down by the ones above them, the ones with more power. Their motivations and journeys are similar, but perhaps it is their introducing characteristics that define their ends. How each of them deals with the consequences were predetermined by their actions before we knew them. Chandu, famous for his righteousness and skills, dies in a duel. Fighting to defend his title, he knows his death is coming to him. Yet he doesn't back down. A true soldier, he is willing to die in a fight rather than live by his enemy's mercy. Realizing that his death might be approaching, he accepts his fate. Maqbool lives in a much uncertain world. Both him and Abbaji's introduction is them threatening a traitor. Maqbool himself had betrayed and been betrayed towards the end. Hence, it makes sense that he is shot in the back while he decides to leave everything behind. He is not a warrior, nor does he abide by a moral code. Hence, he feels no obligation to stay behind and face the consequences. Joji, established by several of the characters, is not reliable neither capable. After realizing that he might finally get caught, he decides to kill himself. But true to his character and the expectations everyone has from him, he fails in that too and ends up paralyzed in a bed. Still holding on to his illusions, he refuses to confess while lying on the hospital bed. He has been failing all his life, even when he has tried to take control from time to time. This refusal to confess is his last attempt to gain some power. You can catch Maqbool and Joji on Amazon Prime. Subscribe for more such breakdown videos, and if you like the video then press the like button and share it with your friends.